Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series where we cover the entire Bible in 20 months. All today's chapters are Daniel chapter 2 and 3. Now you can see I am down at this magnificent resort, very impressive, and the perfect place to be talking about the Babylonian Empire, don't you think? Anyway, Daniel chapter 2 is about Nebuchadnezzar's dream. So Shakespeare got it right when he said, "Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown." Often when you've got a massive dynasty like this, you're worried about losing it. You're worried about it coming to naught. And so he had this dream. It seems to be a recurring dream. God spoke to secular leaders through dreams. Remember, he spoke to Herod through a dream. He spoke through Pharaoh through a dream. And he calls his musicians and his magicians and his enchanters to him and says to them, "I want you to interpret my dream, but to test them," he said, "you've got to tell me what the dream was." Obviously, they couldn't do it. They were distressed. The punishment was he was going to wipe out his entire elite academic community in Babylon. Daniel got to hear about it. He asked God. God gave him the dream. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had been praying, "God, reveal this to us." And this was the dream. A massive statue, probably the height of that building. A gold head, a silver chest, a bronze torso, iron legs, and feet that were brittle. And so he goes to Nebuchadnezzar and he says, "This is the dream you had." And he says, "And then a rock, which was hewn not of human hands, was taken out of a mountain, rolled down the hill, smashed the feet. This whole statue came crashing to the floor, and it was blown away by the wind." Well, the king was absolutely distraught. He bowed down before Daniel, promoted him to the highest in the kingdom. Daniel took his friends with him, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They all became governors, and incredible story. It's incredible for a number of reasons. Firstly, God knows the beginning from the end. Secondly, God deposes kings and puts them in place. Thirdly, this actually happened. Daniel is given an interpretation of these different aspects of this body being different kingdoms. So the gold represented Nebuchadnezzar, and he was, he founded that Babylonian Empire 636 BC, and it led for 100 years. Darius the Mede took over and led for 200 years. He took out the Babylonians. And then the Bronze Age represents the Greek kingdom, where Alexander the Great, arguably the biggest, most influential empire in the ancient world for 250 years. And then the Iron Age represents the Romans, who took over 63 BC for about 400 years. And the rock represents Jesus. And Jesus was introduced in the Roman age, and very soon billions of people all over the world are following Jesus. And so quite a remarkable dream. Well, chapter 3 reflects one of the most famous stories in the Bible, actually, when it didn't take Nebuchadnezzar long. These despotic rulers, intoxicated with their own power, were very often erratic and irrational. And he erects this massive statue, probably that size of this building behind me on the plains, and in memory, obviously, of his dream. His wise rulers around him said to him, "Listen, we want everyone to think the same, have the same values. You want your community to hold together. You want unity in your kingdom. Get everybody to worship the same thing." And so he compels the worship of this idol to everybody in the state of Babylon. Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to do it. I'm assuming Daniel wasn't on the plane at the time watching the opening of this thing. And that they get dragged before Nebuchadnezzar. He orders they get thrown into the fire, and he's watching from the outside. He leaps to his feet because he sees they're absolutely unharmed by the flames, even though those who threw them in were killed by the flames. And he sees a fourth person wandering around in the fire, and he says, "It looks like the son of the gods." Now, this story has huge implications. I mean, in the book of Revelation, Babylon describes the last generation before Jesus returns. A generation that will force you to think the same, force you to worship anything that is anti-Jesus, and compels you to do so. But the comfort we draw from this story is that in the midst of the persecution, God is there. In this instance, I think Jesus was there, or a massive angelic being. And so as we read this text, it is a huge encouragement, a sober reality that we're living in Babylonian times. I mean, there are benefits of living in Babylon, but there comes a pressure to push against God. And this book of Daniel teaches us to stand and stand again.